In fishing, there's the hunt for big bass, there's the camaraderie, then there's the story. What's your story? What do you think of Florida? You like coming here?
You know, the whole Kissimmee chain's pretty awesome. I mean, I've got some really good memories. You know, some bad ones, obviously, from the first couple times to coming out here from California and not really understanding it. And first time I came out here, really didn't catch them because it's so flat. Being from California, we're used to contours and seeing bottom and stuff, and here it's just like, man, this water's black and it's just flat for days. But got it?
No.
After a while, you know, you start fishing it, you start learning how these fish relate, and I actually won a tournament down here in Florida. Probably one of the best flipping bites I've ever been on in my entire life.
Really?
I weighed 108 pounds over the course of 4 days. I caught 2 30-pound bags flipping. I can remember times where I had dentist appointments. Somehow I never ended up at the dentist. And principal come in, Ish, you got to go to the dentist. And I'd just be like, oh man, Pops be out there. And then after a while, like, man, you had like 4 or 5 trips to the dentist in the last month. And what's going on? You got some bad teeth or something? It's like, nah, we going to the lake.
Ish, so we're here out in this beautiful place in Florida, man, and I know that you like doing a lot of fishing here, but again, man, what do you consider the difference between like the Delta fishing, which has grass, and then fishing here in Florida?
Well, the real major difference is the tides. You know, one thing about Florida is, I know St. John's rivers have the tide, but that tide doesn't compare to the Delta. St. John, you're looking at, you know, 6 inches to a foot of water movement through the course of a day. Delta can be anywhere from 2 to 6 feet of water movement. So a place that you've been fishing can be completely bone dry when you come back to it and stuff. And so that's pretty much the biggest difference. Other than that, bass is a bass, grass is grass, and all you gotta do is go fishing and have fun and you'll catch them.
Wow, so you grew up fishing really the Delta. What's your favorite lake in California?
Man, all of them. I mean,
Wow.
We've got Lake Berryessa. All 3 species has a world record in it. You know, Lake Comanche is the same thing. Shasta and Oroville are places you can catch 100 spotted bass in a day. Delta, Clear Lake, you know, 100 largemouth in a day, and all big ones. You know, Clear Lake's amazing. That lake has more 3 to 7 pound fish in it than any other lake I've ever experienced.
Wow, well, I tell you what, the one thing about California bass, whatever you guys are feeding them, they sure make them huge.
Well,
I think they're on
trout.
steroids.
The good old trout,
Really?
trout. You know, they
That's
feed
the
them the
secret?
trout, and they don't necessarily feed them. They just stock trout in the lakes, and they have a good, healthy forage. And then you also, like here in Florida, you got a 12-month growing season. And anytime you have a 12-month growing season plus a good forage, you're going to have big bass, because even Florida's shown it with all the shiners and bluegill and crappie that are in the lake. The bass get to eat a lot and get big.
a pro and getting to this level and being successful?
Actually, it started at about 11 years old, was my thought process on doing something in the fishing industry. And one deal was kind of like ultimate match fishing. And I saw a 16-year-old kid and an 18-year-old kid fishing a tournament head to head. And the 16-year-old kid beat the 18-year-old kid. And right then and there, I was like, age don't really matter.
Wow. And that's definitely the case in a lot of instances nowadays. Because you won your first tournament at what age?
I won my first tournament at 18. But yeah, that was it right there. That love for fishing came very, very early. And I just caught a gator. Yes, I did. I didn't even see him there. You gonna take him off for me? Oh, there you go.
He's gone. He's like, hey, I saw you, man. What are some of the things that you love about fishing?
Different every single time. There's no constant about it. And it's kind of like what you said earlier about catching a big fish. That big fish, even though you've done it a lot, it's like new every single time you catch another big fish. And the experience is different. And it's just something that's just so cool.
Oh, that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I mean, it gets me excited every single time I catch a big one.
What do you love about the professional side of fishing? Being a professional bass fisherman.
I get to do something that a lot of people don't get to do, for one. Two, I get to go fishing every single chance that I pretty much can. Get to hang out here with good guys like you. You know, there's a lot to being a professional angler that it definitely has its benefits and its perks. Not NFL status or nothing, but close to it. I've been to Japan and been recognized. I've been to Spain, been to Brazil and fished there, peacock bass. I mean, and people kind of know who you are. I went to Italy for my brother's wedding and ran into people that knew who I was. You know, and they couldn't believe it was me, and they just, you know, they had to ask. They're like, you wouldn't have to be Ish Monroe, would you? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, what are you doing in Italy? I'm like, brother's wedding. They're like, nice to have you here. You got time to go fishing? And I'm like, no. Well, one thing I've done is I feel like I've changed the game. Is I designed this hook by River to Sea. It's called the New Jack Flippin hook. And it's basically a double eye knot. And what it is first thing you do, you put on your stopper, your bobber stopper, your Paycheck Baits punch stop like I'm using here. I've got 50-pound Maxima braid and any size weight you want. You know, whether you're flipping or you're casting a worm, this is what you definitely want to do. But the great part about this New Jack Flippin hook is you've got a couple of different ways to do this. One is the standard snell that, you know, was taught to me by a guy down here in Florida, Glenn Brown, who's an awesome tournament angler. He showed me how to make a snell knot out of it. And I'll show you what it does when you tie the snell. And you see me doing this. They're basically simple half hitches over the top of each other every single time. And what I do is I have a little trick that I say, you know, 4 times for 4-pounders, 5 times for 5-pounders, 6 times for 6-pounders. So we always kind of go 6 times because we like catching 6-pounders. And so I do, you know, 4, 5, or 6 half hitches. The knot's never going to slip. And so what happens is after you get that tied up, you get a cavitation out of the hook. And if you can see it, when you go to set that hook snaps upward, and you see it swung right into my hand right there. And so whichever way that fish might eat that bait, it's gonna swing upwards toward the roof of their mouth, and it's gonna hook them. Well, the one thing I had people do is they can't tie a snell, so then now they don't have to tie a snell. They can tie any knot they want to this eye right here going through the first eye, and you're gonna get that same cavitation. And once you get that cavitation, once again, they're hooked up and ready to go. So, you know, with the New Jack Flippin hook, you can either tie a snell and use this as a keeper, or you can tie directly through the first eye to the second eye, still get the same cavitation. It's gonna increase your hookup percentage. So that's what I do.
That's him.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
That's what happens when you fish this big line.
That's good stuff, though. You got some guarantees that that fish is not going nowhere.
Yeah, right out with him.
That's awesome.
We're in the area with some fish. Oh my God.
Big
old boil.
Good night. You are on a big one.
Got him.
Oh yeah.
He's not that big.
Okay. But he's on.
Oh, he came off. Gosh.
Really?
Why do I lose him and you get him?
You might have gone through it.
No, he just never got hooked. That speed worm's so big, it's just.
That is fleshy. That's a fleshy bait.
Yeah, he just didn't get it good.
Man, he hit it as soon as it hit the water, didn't he?
I took a couple turns on it and then he just.
He was going. Wow. Pow! Boy, I love them bites.
Got him right there.
Wow. That's what I'm
That's how you catch him. You talk about hook sets. You hook set him right in the boat. New jack flipping hook, got him. That's how you do it, like that right there. You still catching the big ones though. I'm trying to get there.
Man, that was Bezo. At the boat, he just followed that thing.
Yeah, he just followed it out and he ate it right there at the boat.
Well, we talked a lot about fishing throughout the day. What would you say to a young man that was sitting right here who says, I'm a sophomore in high school, I love fishing, and I want to become a professional fisherman once I graduate from high school? What would you say to that young man or young woman?
You know, I would tell him is that's great to pursue your dream, but the one thing about it, education. Education is going to take you further than anything else can, you know, further than the experience that you might get out on the water, your education, because not just being a good fisherman, you got to be a good businessman to survive in this, because it's great. You can go out there and catch all the bass you want, but if you can't sell no products, companies don't want you. You know, it's still about being a sales guy. It's still about being a marketer and being a good public speaker, and all that comes from a good education. So I tell him, you know, after high school, continue into college, and while you're in high school, take some college courses. You know, take public speaking, take some business classes, because that's what I did before I went to college. And you know, when I got there, all I needed to do was concentrate on my marketing degree, and that was it.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned Ish, and everyone knows you as a great speaker. Do you speak around the country, young people, or in other forums?
Oh yeah, I mean, I got asked to do, you know, speak at some colleges. I've got asked to teach Bass University. You know, I've done a lot of public speaking. I've done a lot of TV stuff. It's just, you know, you got to be able to sell that product. I mean, ICAST is a prime example of an event that, you know, you have to be at and speak to a lot of retailers.
Yeah, that is a great place and a great forum. You see the best of the best, but you also see them, you know, with a little bit of like 5 seconds to do their thing, and I see them do their spiels. It's amazing what you guys do year in and year out with new products.
Yeah, you're trying to cram a whole bunch of interviews in a very short period of time, and you got to be able to knock it out. And a lot of companies want to be able to use you, and that people want to come in and get their interviews and get out of there. They don't want to be sitting there all day trying to do an interview. There you
Good
go.
one.
Another big one. Oh, look at you.
Oh, good one.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you can swing that one.
Ah,
There you go.
bam!
Look at you. What's that? Picked up the Cinco on me. You changed it
You
up.
would be proud of me. Bam, bam, pow.
You know it's never this good when tournament days.
I know. You know, that's why I'm getting all hyped. Because you know this guy is going you come tournament time like, yeah, right, man. It's your little baby. Get your brother, mommy, little got the baby.
Yeah, you'd be begging. You'd be begging for that fish in the tournament.
I know. Like, look here, man. Can you at least come back?
9 pound, 8 ounce, baby Jesus in a manger. Please give me 5 like that in the tournament.
So Ish, if you were able to wave your magic wand, let's say you had the ability to change something in the world or just in some type of environment, what would you say that would be?
But if I could change something, it would just be how people perceive other people, you know, from a color standpoint. You know, black, white, yellow, brown, other, it don't matter. We're all blood. And that's what it is. We're skin, we're bones, and the pigment in our skin shouldn't dictate how we treat somebody, because we should treat everybody equally the same.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, and quite frankly, you just brought the elephant into the room. We've got to deal with it. You've been all over the world, literally, in bass fishing, and you've been one of the most elite fishermen in the industry that just happens to be African American. What has been the challenges with it?
And it's just, you know, the stereotyping. First year on tour, driving through South Georgia, and I get pulled over for what they call a routine check. Oh, and once again, they call the dogs in, and routine check, I mean, what is that? You open up the guy's Suburban and his boat, and you send the dog through it. I mean, that was it. But now it's kind of funny, because now they throw the lights on me to get my autograph. So it's seen how things have changed over the last 15 years or so. You should be taken as the person that you are, and not because your skin color. It shouldn't be on how much money you make, but how you treat people more than anything else. So I've seen a lot of changes, but I mean, it's still, we've got a lot of work to do to teach our children to be better than what we've done. I believe is you treat people for who they are and not what they are.
Here we go.
Got it? Nope.
Got it.
You got your Cinco. There's your 9 pounder right there. He blew it.
I didn't talk him up, and he ain't nowhere around.
He blew it. That was like a 9 pounder.
Yeah.
Maybe 10.
They get bigger about a minute.
Yeah.
I love those fish. How big was he, Ronnie? Oh man, I'm telling you, he's like at least 12, 13.
New lake record.
Exactly. Leave it to a fisherman. That's it.
Got it?
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, that's a big
one.
That's a giant.
That's a giant. Oh, that's
Get
a
him.
giant. Get over here.
You gonna swing him or you want me to get him?
I think I'll swing it.
Oh, you can't swing that one. Let me get down here and get this one.
Think so?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a giant.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh,
Bam, bam, bam. Wow.
Give me some. Give me some.
Yeah.
Look at that one.
Wow. Look at there. How about that trash? Wake up this morning.
That does wake you. That does get you a little fire. You're like, look at that boil. I was like, ooh, yeah. All of a sudden, your lines are.
Hey, man. Anybody bring a blood pressure cuff? Interesting about this fish, she was in the grass, and I was swimming a worm, and we both saw the wake at the same time. And I was like, huh, but my line didn't have any tension, so she was swimming with it. Well, let me tell you, when she decided to take off, I felt it. What a good fish. I think it's that mojo having Ish Monroe on the boat with us. Even if you catch a big fish like that, it can remind you of a past big fish. But let me tell you, it's almost like you've caught your first big fish of your life every single time. And I think that's why we love fishing so much, because every single time it's just a new experience, because the fish is gonna do something different. So Ish, man, I can't tell you how much I really appreciate you coming out here and showing me so much love, man. You didn't have to do it. You're a top dog. You're one of the top dogs on the FLW tour and have been on the Elite Series. And you're my prediction actually for the Forest Wood Cup.
Awesome.
And I tell you what, you coming out here taking some time when everything else is going on really means a lot. And I think it's going to do a lot for a lot of the fans that you have, because a lot of people love you, man. And we love what you do. And maybe next time we can catch more fish.
Let me catch one or two of those big ones that you caught today, you know. No, I appreciate you having me here on your Big Bass Factory. I mean, it's awesome coming down here to Florida and showing how great, you know, the fishing is down here, you know. Being from the West Coast, don't get to catch true Florida bass, and I really like catching them. So thanks again for having me out here.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks.